This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento. Today joined by Miguel Santiago. He is a member of the California State Assembly. And sir, since about 2012, California has focused mightily on poverty, spent about $18 billion to help those in poverty through investments. One of the programs California launched is known as the CalEITC, the California Earned Income Tax Credit. Talk us through the program.
Sure. Well, a couple of years ago, when we started taking a look at what we can do with this challenge of income inequality, we took a look at the federal program as it relates to earned income tax credit.
And the federal government has an EITC.
They do, absolutely. And what we ended up doing is saying to ourselves, what can we do in California to assist? Because if you're a family who lives off less than $14,000 a year, and there are, they really do need help. And so we took a look at it because if you do live under $14,000 a year, you can have the potential to earn about $6,000 just by filing your income tax returns.
Right. Even if you don't owe anything.
Even if you don't owe anything.
And that's the key, is so often people don't file because, well, I don't owe, but they may get a credit or refund through the feds or the state.
Yes. And you know what's interesting about this too, in California we brought in close to, I think we, in terms of giving away dollars, about 200 million. So there are a lot of Californians who have really benefited from this program.
Close to 400,000 families benefited in the first year. The question becomes, how do you continue to spread the message, the good news about CalEITC?
Well, the first step, I would say, is number one, go to your website and take a look at what programs exist. For example, I would also say that if you took a look at the federal government's program under VITA, if you earn less than $54,000 a year, you should have your income taxes done for free. And that's really critically important because that's a cost you should not bear. And if you're going through a tax preparer, professional tax preparer, you should also mention that these programs exist. In our office, we're doing everything we possibly can to reach out to people and let them know about this program. I represent the third poorest district in the state of California.
You're basically around downtown Los Angeles.
Downtown Los Angeles, Skid Row, Pico Union, MacArthur Park, Boyle Heights, and we're doing a series of events. And we're doing all the outreach we can so people understand that this program exists.
If you live in the Los Angeles area, coming up on March 4th, there is an event at the LA Public Library, and it's free tax preparation, which is wise because those people that are volunteering their time will know about the EITC, both state and federal, and any other programs that could be of benefit.
But I think you hit it on the nail. Most people who earn a very low wage, because they know they're not going to owe anything, may not file their income tax returns. And part of this program really is letting people know that you should file and you should try to qualify for every program possible. I mean, the fact that there's 400,000 people who qualified in this program, and the fact that the numbers are so low, like 14,000 for a family of four, you would think that that doesn't exist in California, but it absolutely exists.
I wonder if we need to look at the floor of the EITC in that California is increasing its minimum wage. It's another anti-poverty program, and while that's a blessing, $15 an hour, which is going to be a few years out, is still challenging. And so do we need to start to reevaluate whether the EITC is too low, at least the floor?
We're going to, I think, and this is happening across the board. In fact, I'm carrying a bill that would take a look at child care eligibilities and try to increase that with a minimum wage, because the real fight for minimum wage was about a discretionary funding, because it's one thing to pay rent, but it's also to have money to pay the bills and to have food on your table. So we're taking a look at what that really means, both in housing, childcare, and any other area that we need to examine over the next couple of years.
I want to talk about California and its relations with Washington, D.C. It's undeniable that during the Obama years, relations between the Golden State and our nation's capital were pretty positive. Our state government was kind of on track with the policies of the federal government. I think it's fair to say that with the new administration, our policies are divergent. And so I'm wondering, where does California go in the wake of the new administration?
Sure. Well, we're not backing down from any of the commitments that we made to our population. We've committed health care, we've committed a quality education, we've committed a transportation system that works, and safe communities. We're not backing down. I think what is uncertain is how this administration moves forward and if they follow through with all their commitments to abolish certain programs.
Well, let's talk about healthcare most broadly. Events are moving quickly. We don't know what's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act. But what we do know is one can say a lot of things about it, but California is a state that most people would argue the Affordable Care Act has worked. We have our own exchange. The Medicaid expansion has been successful. But those folks that are getting health care under the Affordable Care Act are getting it because they qualify for federal subsidies. I mean, 90% of these people are getting some form of federal subsidy. What does California do if, hypothetically, as part of the Affordable Care Act repeal, reform, whatever it may be, those subsidies vanish?
Yeah, well, what's really at stake is the dollars, the federal dollars. And I think that's what we're seeing across the board with transportation, with education. But I think it's a real challenge in whatever this policy ends up looking like, because it's got to be affordable, and I don't think that there's a solid plan. But what is fair to say is that I think the Republicans are trying to figure out what exactly they propose.
Let's talk about education. What we know is that in California, and by the way, I'm speaking to a former member of a community college district.
Correct.
In California, we have about 215,000 that successfully applied for what's known as DACA, Deferred Action. There are about 61,000 community college students that are DACA kids. What does that mean? They were brought to this country before they were 15. They're now under 30. They're in school. They have jobs. The new administration has indicated they want to revoke DACA. What does California do on that front? Because they've also said that they're willing to pull federal funds if states, cities, communities don't support their immigration efforts.
Well, currently, until it's repealed, it's the law.
DACA is the law.
And so in California, we're going to continue operating as if it's the law. But it was also fair to say, though, is they've got to think very wisely about how they approach this, because we're also talking about an economic factor in our workforce. It's not so easy in today's economy to say, let's remove a large population of the workforce. They are now integrated, and they're productive individuals in our communities, and they pay taxes by virtue of...
Right, no question, but I want to focus like a laser beam on the DACA kids, because those are look, they're sympathetic. And Mr. Trump during the campaign was clear that he has no interest in deferred action, and he and his administration have said, if you don't play, we're going to pull federal funds. And look, they can do that. President Johnson did it during desegregation. He said, you don't play, southern school districts, so we're not going to give you federal funds. And California gets $105 billion a year from the federal government. Not all for education, obviously. But how far do we go with this?
Well, in California, we're going to stand by the commitment that we've made to these young people, both the DACA DAPA and the young dreamers.
Right.
I think what's going to be a challenge, and I don't see them fulfilling that commitment exactly the way they said it, because they've got a congressional delegation of Republicans here who probably would not be wise to stand here and see federal dollars pulled from their own state.
Right.
I'd like to see the first Republican member of Congress say, repeal all the dollars from my state and get reelected. Now, that's a big challenge that I don't see happening, because you have a responsibility to the people that you elected and the state that you come from. So both Democrats and Republicans have every vested interest to work together to ensure that federal dollars are coming to California.
His name is Miguel Santiago. He is a member of the California State Assembly, representing significant portions of LA County. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento. It's Local Edition.